Tip number one, when looking to go shopping or buy anything, supplement related or not, is to know what you're looking for. Go in with a plan, because if you don't, there's a very high probability you're going to get finessed and you're going to end up buying something you don't necessarily want or need. So go in with a plan. But how do we know what supplements we need to take when there's so many supplements out there? There's so many different specific types of supplements within that. So okay, if I say I want to take protein, okay, what kind of protein do you want to take? You want to take whey or soy or casein? Oh, you want to take whey? Okay, so it's from a milk source. You want to take concentrate? You want to take isolate? You want to take hydro isolate? There's a ton of different options. And to make things even more difficult, there's a ton of different brands. So how do we decide? Well, we can go to Google. This is how I started. You can go to Google and you can search what you're looking for. My tip is keep your search short. Google is a keyword search engine. It picks up on keywords. Don't type a whole sentence. Just put the keywords. Muscle, building, supplements. If this is what we're looking into, for example, this is just an example. We're going to go ahead and hit enter. Now we're going to try to pick not necessarily the first link, but a link that is unbiased. How do we determine if a link is unbiased? Well, the first thing we should look for is, are they trying to sell us any supplements directly there on that website? Well, let's look around. Top, no. Side, no. No. So there are ads on this website, and that's not uncommon. That's how the website supports itself. It's an extra revenue stream. But they're not trying to sell us any supplements within these ads, which is a good thing. There's not that conflict of interest there. The second thing we can see is we know who wrote this article, right? It wasn't anonymous. It was written by Grant Tinsley, PhD. So that's a good thing. We're not going to look into this in this video, but you could look into Grant Tinsley, PhD, and see, has this guy been affiliated with a company in the past or present? Because if he is, that could be a conflict of interest. Now, normally we would read this, but we're going to skim it for this video's sake. So we see creatine, protein, weight gainers, beta-alanine, BCAAs, HMB. So there's a lot of supplements here. Now, something I can really appreciate is that he cites. This is the second thing you look for. First thing you look for is, are they trying to sell you any supplements directly there on the website? Second thing you look for, do they have citations to support their claims? And you can see here he does. He says muscle creatine content by up to 40% beyond its normal levels when you do supplement it. And he cites 3 things, which is good. That's very good. But we can see for some things he only cites one thing here, one thing here, one thing here, one thing here, which is good. He's still citing information. I don't want to take away from that. He clearly put in a lot of work for this article. But he could be cherry picking evidence. He could be picking one study that supports that claim, one study that supports that claim, when all the other studies don't necessarily support that claim. And we can see here that it hasn't been written or updated in a couple years. So that's another thing to account for that could be a concern, honestly. So what we're going to do is we're going to validate with a different source. And just to elaborate on this a little bit more is, you say, Michael, you're being too picky. Maybe I am. But cherry picking evidence is essentially something where you pick evidence that only supports the claim that you want to share. So let's say that Grant Tinsley decides he wants to write an article about the 6 best supplements to gain muscle, because he knows that article will get a lot of views because people are searching this all the time. What he can say is, I'm not saying he did this, but he could be like, okay, I lift myself, I take creatine monohydrate, and that's helped me a lot. So he's going to write creatine here, and he knows, because he has a PhD, that he has to cite research if he wants to have some validity. So he's going to cite that. And the way he could have found it is he could have searched something like, why should I take creatine monohydrate? And this right here is known as confirmation bias. It's known as confirmation bias because I asked why you should take creatine monohydrate. It's a leading question. It assumes that you should take creatine monohydrate. So all of these links are likely, because this is a keyword search engine, is likely to pull up a bunch of links that support the use of creatine monohydrate. Now we could counterbalance this effect by putting the exact opposite leading question, why you should not take creatine. And we can view the other side and determine, is it appropriate for us or not? But this is kind of a lot of work, especially for one supplement. So you could condense this and have a non-leading question. Should I take creatine? This is a better question to ask, and you're much more likely to get non-biased information as well. Now, I did mention that even though that this guy has a PhD, he put in a lot of work in it. It's on Healthline, which is a reputable website. He put down research that you can look at. So look right there. He pulls it up, and then you can determine, did he interpret this research correctly? Instead of doing this second step right here, where you validate it on Google itself again, what I do is I go to examine.com. Now, this is a website that I found a while back. I'm not affiliated with them, but this resource has helped me out tremendously. This is a group of health professionals that have come together to make this website to essentially interpret all of these studies so the average Joe like you and I can understand it without having to read thousands of articles at once. Now, they're very transparent about what they do and how they make money, and I'll get into that. But if we go back to Grant Tinsley's article, the first thing he said we should take is creatine. So we're going to go over here and we're going to, use the quote-unquote Google of supplements, and we're going to search creatine. Now, there's a lot of information here, but luckily on this right-hand side, there's an index. If we go to the human effect matrix, we can see a bunch of different dependent variables that have been observed, outcomes, as a result of supplementation with that specific supplement, in this case, creatine. If we're interested in something, say weight, we can look at the magnitude of effect, and we can see that there is likely to be a strong increase in your body weight when supplementing creatine. If we don't know what that means, that's pretty transparent with weight, but okay, there's a notable increase in creatinine content when supplementing creatine. What is creatinine? You could Google that, or you could just go here and it'll tell you what creatinine is. But most importantly, you always check this column, the consistency of the research. Because although this says that there's a strong increase in your weight when supplementing creatine, if this says low or doesn't say anything at all, that doesn't mean anything. The research needs to agree with itself. So if it's high or very high, that means that most, if not all, the research validates that there is a strong increase in weight. They have all observed that, which means that's the outcome you're most likely to see. Now, this is all great, but what if you have questions of your own? Well, chances are they're answered here. And they actually link their own articles where they answer it, and they'll give you citations and everything else, kind of similar to Grant Tinsley's article. But how do you take it? Because that's important. How do you take it? How much do I take? How frequently do I take it? When do I take it? What to avoid? This is all answered right here. Okay? This is an important step. Now, I recognize that finding an unbiased article that's up to date, that's not trying to sell you any supplements, that cites research, that publicly puts the author out there, this is asking a lot. This is difficult to find. And then to revalidate it on Google or Examine itself is a lot of work, especially for just one supplement. So something you can use that will help reduce your research time drastically is supplement guides. Specifically on Examine is what I recommend. Now, I'm not affiliated with this company or this product. I haven't even talked to them individually. But this is a product that I've purchased myself that I believe in so much that I want to share it with you. Now, I realize this sounds like an infomercial, so let's get back to the video. Continuing the theme, Let's say we're looking at muscle gain and exercise performance. You click on this, they'll tell you, here are 6 supplements that absolutely will work for that specific goal. Here's 7 that may, which means there might be conflicting research at the moment, and 2 to avoid that don't work, that people think will work, that will actually end up hurting you. Now, of the 6 that work, they'll tell you right off the bat, here are 2 of them. One is creatine. Thank you, Grant Tinsley. We know that. The second one, nitrates. How many of you know what nitrates are? Probably not many of you. Nitrates are essentially what's found in leafy greens. But if you didn't know that, you can now search on Google nitrates, or what are nitrates, or how should I take nitrates? Or, once again, you can go on examine.com and search nitrates. Because all of this information that they tell you on these guides already exists. It already exists. But like we talked about before, you need to know what to look for in order to find it in most cases. And this is where this helps you out. This is like the Chegg for homework. It can help you or it can hurt you depending on how you use it. Okay. Now, unlike Grant's article that hasn't been updated in 3 years, this receives free lifetime updates. And the way they can offer that is because they have a whole team and not just one person. This was one person, Grant Tinsley, that uploaded this article. This is a whole team of health professionals. So they're continually updating it. There's more research in it. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you really have nothing to lose. If it's not what you thought it was, which is not going to be the case, but if it's not what you thought it was, you can get your money back. Okay? Do not scam this website. Okay? I love this website. The last thing I need is someone to come on this website and scam it and ask for a money back guarantee, get it, and then continue to use the resource afterwards. But this is what I recommend for you to use. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to shop for the supplements now that we've identified after these steps which ones you should take.